2025 vision is made possible by a grant from the Abbot Academy Association, continuing Abbott's tradition of boldness, innovation, and caring.
The endlessly wise Abraham Lincoln once said, "The best way to predict the future is to create it." This may seem like a vague and unattainable task, but for the STEM workforce of tomorrow, it's a task that must be met with innovation, intelligence, and originality, but more importantly, with passion and hard work. If I said to you, you can spend your academic career in a major that demands and rewards passion, creativity, teamwork, and the need to share ideas and collaborate with others, the first thing you might think of might be theater or journalism. However, in making this film, I realized that those demands and rewards are front and center in every STEM field too. To get this information, thanks to the Abbot Academy Association, I traveled to 6 research universities as well as the National Academy of Sciences to conduct interviews with some of the best science people on the planet and collect their insights.
Dr. Tomas Diaz de la Rubia, Head of Discovery Park at Purdue University. Dr. J. Walsh, Vice President of Research at Northwestern University. Dr. Don Levy, Vice President of Research at the University of Chicago. Dr. Ian Waitz, Dean of Engineering at MIT. Dr. Stephen Girvin, Vice Provost for Research at Yale University. Dr. Pablo Debenedetti, Dean of Research at Princeton University. And finally, Dr. Marcia McNutt, the President of the National Academy of Sciences.
The original goal of this film was to derive and display the types of jobs that will be needed to combat major global issues in the near future, but we came away with much, much more. In the next minutes, you will learn what it takes to become a productive and successful STEM student and member of the STEM workforce, and why you would want to be in it. The words of these remarkable scientists will captivate and inspire you to become the most driven individual you can be in whatever discipline you decide to pursue, micro or macro, classic or cutting edge. Even if you decide not to pursue a career in STEM, these men and women have wonderful perspectives and will show you what it means to be successful and how to get there. Going into the interview process, I expected to come away with a lot more demographic trends for the future than I did, but the numbers that I did find will absolutely shock you.
According to a 2012 report made by PCAST to former President Barack Obama, we need approximately 1 million more college graduates in STEM fields than expected under current assumptions. Fewer than 40% of students who enter college intending to major in a STEM field complete a STEM degree. Merely increasing the retention of STEM majors from 40% to 50% would generate 3/4 of the targeted 1 million additional STEM degrees over the next decade.
In addition to these statistics, there are many intriguing and important data collected by Deloitte, a large consulting firm with a deep root in advanced technologies, as well as the Council on Competitiveness, compiled in a brilliant 2015 report that was generously shared by Dr. Tomas Diaz de la Rubia, Head of Discovery Park at Purdue University.
The Advanced Technologies Initiative is a project quite similar to my own. The report is compiled of data collected via interview with leading experts and executives in tech and engineering fields. This information addresses and outlines the importance of advanced technologies to combat rising global crises such as talent shortages, population growth, and accompanying shortages in food, water, and energy. For example, this graphic displays some of the foreseeable challenges and opportunities for future research and development. A striking statistic that supports the number presented to former President Barack Obama by PCAST outlines the anticipated manufacturing employment deficit due to a lack of qualified individuals. There will be a projected 2 million empty jobs for skilled STEM workers by 2025, a number that supports PCAST's desire for additional STEM grads. In addition to the obligation for an expanded STEM workforce, the report discusses in great detail the auspicious manufacturing technologies that will become crucial as the industry continues to grow and develop. This graphic ranks and describes each technology, the most notable of which being predictive analytics and the IoT, or Internet of Things. The report defines predictive analytics as a technology that utilizes a variety of statistical and analytical techniques that are used to develop mathematical models which predict future events or behaviors based on past data. It is projected to be used to aid in intelligence forecasting and planning in future manufacturing endeavors. The Internet of Things, defined as an amalgamation of advanced software that allows objects and machines to interact digitally, is said to enable new levels of smart manufacturing automation across industries and value chains. This final graphic shows how executives in 3 different countries or continents would rank the projected importance of the various technologies in the manufacturing industry. Note that the Internet of Things is ranked second and predictive analytics first by U.S. executives. Special thanks to Dr. Tomas Diaz de la Rubia for generously sharing this report. It can be downloaded from the Deloitte website.
Certainly, information technology is driving the economy. I just came back from San Francisco, and frankly, we have a whole bunch of IT stuff happening here in Chicago as well. And there is absolutely no doubt that the information technology, so software-based companies, and the associated hardware, that smartphone that you carry in your pocket, and undoubtedly can't be more than 20 feet away from you in your life. What you're going to see over the next 10 years is you're going to see a change in how computing is driven forward. There are some basic science discoveries that are being made now, particularly in the physics sort of area, and linked with that actually is some chemistry. So what's happening is we are now able to not only visualize things at the nanoscale and almost at the atomic scale, and certainly actually at the atomic scale, but we're now starting to be able to manipulate things at that scale. And what you're going to see is that basic science work graduate into technologies that are actually applied. So you're going to see basic science go to engineering and then go out to companies.
Another set of forecasts relates to the explosion of a global middle class and associated demands in food, water, and energy. More on these trends to follow.
There's 7.2 billion of us on the planet today. The population is growing exponentially very fast, and I think numbers like 9.5 or 10 billion people that are usually quoted by many studies are what we expect to see. That is one of the, I think, most important sort of social megatrends that we face as a planet today, and that drives a lot of the challenges that we see coming over the next few decades. But it's also the trends towards urbanization of these societies, right? More and more we see society condensing into large megacities, cities with 20, 30 million people. That trend is accelerating around the world. So that's an important trend also. I think the other trend in terms of global population that is very important is the fact that at the same time that all of this is happening, we expect about 60% of the global population to live in some form of middle class by 2030. Maybe it's not the same middle class that we're accustomed to in the Western Hemisphere. Maybe it's a different, standard of living, but nevertheless a much higher standard of living than most people live in today around the world. And as that happens, the stresses on natural resources continue to increase, and therefore all of these trends are really, really important.
Math is key. I've always been told growing up, even when faced with what seems to be a pointless problem or a useless topic, that math is the foundation for everything. When you're a child, you never believe you'll use math every day, but in any of the sciences, math is absolutely pivotal for success. Even in historically descriptive sciences like biology and geology, quantitative thinking is critical for innovation. Take a look.
I'm partial to learning mathematics, even biology, which not so long ago was a very descriptive science. It's become extremely quantitative. Biologists are adopting tools from physicists and engineers to gather enormous data sets, and you need to understand statistics and calculus and linear algebra and to just make sense of all those data sets, no matter what field you end up going into. Having a solid grounding in mathematics is very, very important.
I think there's a stage in your life where getting the fundamentals down is terrifically important, particularly math. math is money in the bank, and there's only a certain part of your life when you're prepared to learn it, which is sort of where you're at going forward. And I think I'd wait a little while till I specialized in one of these specialized problems. If you have the right background, you're then quite equipped to go into lots of things. And the things will change. I mean, the problems that we're looking at now will not be the problems that are important 10 years from now, but you're going to be working for 40 or 50 years. And you're going to have a background that allows you to adapt to that.
I want to be an engineer, and I learned a lot more about what that means in doing these interviews. If you, like me, have a brain that gels well with logic and systems and enjoys problem solving, then engineering could be for you. This is particularly so if you have a wild imagination, an overwhelming hunger for creativity, and a passion for solving some problem. For me, engineering is the perfect discipline to apply this orientation, seeing as there is an ever-growing list of problems that need to be solved, an endless amount of work that's begging to be done, and a lot of qualified individuals who can step up and do it. As Dr. Waitz of MIT says,
so it's a good time to be an engineer. What's neat about engineering, I think, is that it is and always has focused on solving important practical problems for society. There's just an energy and a positivism about engineering which has been growing. In fact, the national data show that overall college enrollments in the U.S. are going down due to demographic trends, just fewer 18-year-olds. And enrollments in engineering are up 50% in the last decade or so. So against a downward trend overall, engineering has been growing, and I think it really aligns with people's desire to make a contribution to the world, whether that's solving a social need or a market need. So there's a lot of energy right now. It's a great time to be in engineering because the engineering profession and its ability to solve and contribute to society just happens to align beautifully with the interests of 18 to 25-year-olds. So
imagine that you've got mentally in front of you at all times 2 whiteboards. On one whiteboard, you have a list of all of the great problems that need to be solved. On the other whiteboard, you have a list of all of the emerging technologies that are just coming over the horizon. Now, those who are the successful scientists are the ones who say, I can marry this technology with that problem right now and make a difference. What are most of the scientific breakthroughs are the people who see there is some emerging technology that allows a breakthrough on a problem which may have been on that whiteboard for 20 years, but there hasn't been a way to address it. And suddenly, something over on that whiteboard allows you to make progress on it.
The answer may sound corny, but it's the truth. Thirst for knowledge, curiosity, thinking all the time, why does nature work the way it works? And as an engineer, also, what are the principles that will enable rational design of practical products? Why did I choose engineering? Well, that had to do also a bit. I grew up in Argentina, that's where I'm from originally. So I've always been at the boundary between engineering and more basic science, so I'm at the fundamental as opposed to applied spectrum of engineering. So I could have done, say, physics or chemistry, but in Argentina at that time, given the economic situation, it was safer to study engineering. So I'm delighted I did that because I took the best, what I consider to be the best of both worlds.
More than anything, I think what I enjoy is learning and information, whatever it may be. New sports technique, learning a new instrument, vocabulary expansion, etc. As I've heard from the experts, their STEM careers have provided them with the opportunity to learn for a lifetime. Some say when you stop learning, you stop living.
I think if young people today are interested in science. There's just so much to choose from. You probably shouldn't decide too early exactly what you want to do. I mean, you'll go to college and change your major once or twice. If you decide to go on to graduate school, you might end up doing something different than you thought you wanted to do that you did in your senior thesis. You should intentionally do something a little different if you become a postdoctoral fellow or go to industry, wherever your career takes you. It's an opportunity to keep learning your entire life, and you just have to do that because the pace of change is tremendous. Just always keep learning. That's the key, I think.
So I think the STEM worker of the future is going to have to be much broader, much more interdisciplinary, and it's going to have to be able to solve problems in ways that we're only starting to see today, using deep learning, machine learning algorithms, artificial intelligence, autonomy, predictive analytics based on big data. All of these things are trends that are emerging today are going to become exponential in growth over the next few years. Seek out programs of education that allow you to really develop this interdisciplinary talent that is inherent in everybody, all right? To really look at the STEM disciplines from a systems perspective, to look at the connectivity between the traditional mechanical or electrical engineer and the digital technologists of the future. Right? Because I believe, as I was saying very strongly, that unless you're able to interconnect all of these things and are able to take advantage of these new emerging trends, your ability to make contributions to the future of society won't be as strong as it could be.
Students in engineering really need to be pretty broad-based in terms of their skill sets, willing to learn what it takes to be successful, or learn how to learn, because with the explosion of information, there's no way that you're going to learn everything that you need to know to carry you for the rest of your career. In fact, to me, it seems like sometimes you learn enough that carry you to next week, and then you've got to learn something else and learn something else. So you want to have some experiences in learning how to learn, some of them that are really deep, so that you know, hey, if I need to become the world's leading expert on the world's narrowest problem area, I can. And then you need some really broad experiences as well. So you can think about your education as sort of a T that way, as having some broad experiences and some very deep trenches where you'll go and understand things in great detail. And I think those are good experiences to aspire to have.
I went to that small technical school up the street from you called MIT. My most important classes certainly were the science and engineering, because that allowed me to grow my career, but it really was also the humanities classes that I took. My German classes, I learned not only how to receive information and transmit information in another language, but I learned how to construct sentences and therefore construct ways of delivering information in different ways. So it was way broader than just learning a language. It's how do you construct an idea in your head so that it can be transmitted, and how is that also received? And then have a broad education, because you're going to need to understand the world. It may not actually impact your day-to-day job, but it'll impact your understanding of how that day-to-day job fits into the larger picture. There's an old story that's told, and I'll keep it really short. A nobleman's walking down the street, and he runs into a guy and he says, "What do you do?" And he says, "I cut stone." He's a stone cutter. He takes stone and he cuts it into blocks so that it can build things. And and he says, "Thank you very much for doing that." He goes down the street a little further and he runs into the next guy and he says, "I too cut stone." And then he goes to the third guy and he says, "What do you do?" And he said, "I'm building a cathedral." He understood what his job was, but he understood the larger picture. He understood that he was part of a team that was building a cathedral. You're going to go out someday and you're going to have a job within a company. It's going to be a small job to start with, but it's all part of building a cathedral, a great organization that is going to have impact on the world. Recognizing where you fit in that cathedral building allows you to not only be happy with what you're doing, but also allows you to fit into the bigger picture.
Throughout this process, I've learned that nothing can be done without collaboration. Science no longer happens in a silo. Behind every new innovation or discovery, you need a diligent, cooperative team that functions with efficiency. These teams are the reason that new technologies and products are on the market. More often than not, scientists aren't the only people involved.
As an engineer, I was trained in several of the components of research that I do, certainly thermodynamics, statistical mechanics. I didn't know much about biology, and if you're doing research on proteins, you better know a little bit about proteins. So there you go, biology contributes, and I interact with biologists in that research. All the time, in virtually every project that I undertake, there are bodies of knowledge that go beyond what I studied. So in addition to reading the literature and encouraging my students to read the literature, it's interacting with the experts in other disciplines that go beyond what my own training has provided.
I think for engineering students, real desire and interest to learn what they need to know to really accomplish that, and that will have as part of the needs understanding sort of core fundamental principles of math and physics and chemistry and biology, system design and engineering, but beyond that, great communication skills, great collaboration skills, all the things that it takes to lead multidisciplinary teams of people, because engineering today tends to be done by larger teams of people that have different skills and different capabilities working with each other. Students in engineering really need to be pretty broad-based in terms of their skill sets. So I'm not sure.
Most people in the public view a university as a place where students go to learn. So we educate by bringing students in and teaching them in a classroom and in laboratories and studios. But we also educate by creating new knowledge. And we create it largely at the intersection of those fields. You know, the example I gave to you of, we're now moving to the place where we can write DNA. We have folks in the religion department deeply involved in this work, and actually I've been on an email exchange in the last day and a half with a religion professor who is working with the National Academy of Sciences in Washington to bring a conference together to talk about how we should think about the ethics of writing DNA sequences. The interdisciplinarity is both within the sciences, and then it crosses over into other fields as well. You know, I mean, the major advances that are going to happen in medicine, some of them are going to happen deep within biology. Some of them are going to happen at the intersection with computer science, as we learn to do data analysis. So that's actually statistics as well. So the future is at the intersections. It's now.
Above all else, a scientist of any age must have enduring passion for what they're doing. Without passion, there's nothing likely to get done. This was the one intensely common theme among everyone I spoke with. If you take nothing else away from this presentation, take away that passion is key for STEM. If you're passionate about solving a problem, or being an engineer, or being a scientist, then STEM is definitely the career for you.
To follow your heart. There's no greater joy than to have a profession that is a hobby, that you enjoy. Where you go to work every day and you say, gee, today I'm going to be working on this spectacular problem. So, there are so many disciplines that are important, and you should follow your heart.
You can't really succeed in science unless it's just your passion. I can't not be a physicist. It's who I am. When you find that thing that you're passionate about, you should follow that. Because if you're not passionate, you're not going to work hard, you're not going to absorb things, you're not going to be curious to learn what's around the corner. I think that's the most important thing. You'll learn the special knowledge that you need in a particular field once you've found your passion.
I imagined that I was going to be a scientist, and that thought never wavered. Even when I was in high school, I took every science course I could fit into my schedule, and what I enjoyed doing most was solving problems and answering questions that were, short answer science questions and math problems, rather than writing essays in English classes and history classes.
What we see right now at MIT is students like you who come to us are less interested in, well, I want to be this particular type of engineer, and they're more interested in how do they want to contribute to society, what grand challenge do they want to solve, or what industrial area do they want to work in. They have to be passionate about making some contribution or solving some problem or some product, and almost doesn't matter what that is as long as there's a real societal need or market need. I think the real ingredients, you have to have a passion for a particular problem, and it could be multiple ones that you should go to in different parts of your life, but you have to be passionate about solving a problem or filling some important market need. And so I would just encourage people to pick something and to go off and do it with energy. It could be almost anything.
The challenge is to get a broad enough education to allow you to launch a career and sustain a career. Don't get a deep foundation in whatever discipline you like. And I think that's actually the key thing. You really have to, frankly, you have to love what you're doing. And if you love what you're doing, you're going to do a great job at it. And that's actually the key thing, is find out something you love. And look, there's lots of things you can love in life. Pick one. Okay.
In order to be successful in science, there are countless things you need to consider. There are a myriad of adjectives I could use to describe a successful STEM worker. Diligent, passionate, smart, logical, observant, and so on and so on. The truth is, anyone can be a scientist, but the best ones are defined by the adjectives and attributes we discussed here today. Earnest, eager to learn, adaptive, collaborative, disciplined, and above all, passionate. It's not easy, and as was pointed out in these interviews, discovery can be frustrating and filled with failures that lead to successes and great fulfillment. To all of the young minds out there aspiring to join the ranks of the great innovators of the STEM fields, I wish you a rewarding and hopefully successful journey.